Hello, my name's Phil Earle, and it's absolutely brilliant to be here with you on Moon Lane TV. And I'm a writer. I'm the writer of, it's 20 books now that I've written for children and for teenagers. And some of them are books like Demolition Dad and Superhero Street. I've written young adult novels like Mind the Gap and Being Billy and Heroic. I've written younger readers as well, things like Elsie and the Magic Biscuit Tin, Albert and the Garden of Doom. But I'm here today to talk to you about my new book, which is coming out in March, which is called The Dog That Saved the World Cup, which is illustrated by the brilliant Elisa Paganelli, who is, of course, very well known for illustrating the Adventures on Trains books by M.G. Leonard and Sam Sedgman. And brilliant she is too. And I thought I would tell you just a little bit today about why I wrote it, really, and where the idea came from, as well as maybe reading you a little bit from it as well. So the idea presented itself to me about 18 months ago. And I've got to be honest, football has always been more than a little bit of an obsession for me. I support, of course, the greatest football team the world has ever seen, who are, of course, the mighty Hull City. Legends, all 11 of them. But football has been a really big obsession for me for as long as I can remember. So I thought I would just share this screen with you so I can give you a little bit of some visual cues. Here's some of my books. Here's some of my football books as well. The Unlucky 11 in there, which was for the mighty Barrington Stoke, who published The Dog That Saved the World Cup. And as I say, I'm absolutely obsessed with footy. Always have been, always will be. But of course, the horrible thing at the moment is that footy doesn't really look like it normally does. Normally, it kind of looks like this. But of course, at the moment, it sort of looks like this, which just is awful. And can't believe it's a year since I've been to a match. But I've always been obsessed with it. I love writing about it because I really feel strongly that if you're passionate about something, then you need to channel that into your writing. There's no good writing a book that you really don't care about the storyline. The storyline has to mean something to you in here. You need to be passionate about it. So football seems to be sort of a common theme or a common storyline that I seem to tackle. Of the 20 books that I've had published now, 4 of them have had football at the heart of them. And so I thought I would tell you today where the idea came from for The Dog That Saved the World Cup. And it didn't start here. That's my son. That's a different book. It starts here. And it's really all about, in 1966, this wonderful, wonderful thing happened in that England, for the first time, and indeed the only time, won the World Cup. And there's Bobby Moore, lifting the trophy, holding it aloft for the whole world to see. And actually, that would make a brilliant story in itself. But it's not, for me, the greatest or the most exciting story that came out of the World Cup in 1966. The most exciting story that came out of that World Cup, for me, was about what happened before the tournament even started. Because a few months before the first match kicked off, the beautiful Jules Rimet trophy, here it is, all gold and shiny and very, very, very expensive, was lent to us. The World Football Body lent our country the Jules Rimet trophy and allowed us to put it on display at a very large exhibition in London. And the idea was that people could troop through this big exhibition hall and have their photograph taken with it and look at the World Cup. But something awful happened halfway through the exhibition. It was guarded by what became known as the most kind of inept security guards ever. And while one of them went to the toilet for a pee, and one of them went to make a cup of tea, someone pinched the Jules Rimet trophy. And for the next 2 weeks, nobody knew where the World Cup was. And every detective and police officer that we had in this country was out there looking for this trophy, but none of them could find it. It was a mystery. It had vanished off the face of the earth. Until 2 weeks later, a detective stepped out the shadows, the most unlikely detective, and we could almost definitely say, in fact, the greatest underdog that you could imagine. There's no way you would think that this underdog could possibly solve a crime that the rest of the country's police officers couldn't. But this, not person, but this detective did. And that detective was Pickles the dog. Now, Pickles was a mongrel. He was a crossbreed. He was 5 or 6 years old, and he lived not too far away from the original Tales on Moon Lane shop. That's in Herne Hill, and Pickles lived up in Crystal Palace, probably about 2 or 3 miles away from the shop. And he lived there with his owner, Dave. And one night, 2 weeks after the World Cup had been stolen, Dave and his dog Pickles were out for a walk, and Pickles became really obsessed with something down by the wheel of the car, the front wheel. And Dave had no idea what Pickles was doing near this car. I thought maybe he just needed the toilet or something. Wait for a while, the dog still didn't come out, so he started pulling on his lead. And when Pickles appeared from outside, around this car, he had a parcel in his mouth. This parcel that was wrapped up in brown paper and tied up with string. And when Dave started to open this package, he found, to his horror, but also to his delight, that inside was the Jules Rimet trophy. And Pickles had solved the mystery that no police officer anywhere in the country could solve. And at that moment, Pickles became the most famous dog in the country, if not the world. And he was lauded and he was celebrated, and he won every kind of Dog of the Year award, and he got to meet the World Cup winning team, and Bobby Moore even held him aloft in front of a huge crowd like he was the trophy himself. Pickles even started his own film career after what had happened. And I've always thought this story was brilliant. He is a true underdog. Who would ever expect that a dog could do something so miraculous and save the world, brackets, cup. And I thought maybe I could write about that, but the story didn't feel complete enough. It felt like it was missing something. It felt like all I would be doing is retelling history. And that didn't excite me. And I think it's really important that when you're telling stories, when you're writing stories, that story excites you. So I knew I needed something else to make the story really sing for me. And luckily enough, my son, Stan, came to find me a few weeks after this first idea of Pickles the Dog started to sort of ruminate around my head. And Stan, as you can see here, like me, is obsessed with footy. And he just finished reading one of his a book by one of his favourite authors. He loves Matt Oldfield's books. Matt writes the most brilliant series of what they call ultimate football heroes. I think there are about 40 of them now. Biographies all about your favourite footballers, from Harry Kane to Ronaldo to Messi to Wayne Rooney to Stevie Gerrard. There's many of these great footballers as you can write about. But Stan read this book by Matt, Unbelievable Football, which was all full of true stories that you might not know about football and footballers. And Stan's favourite story in this book stopped me dead in my tracks, because I had no idea that this person had gone through what they'd gone through. This is Farrah Williams. Farrah Williams has played for England more times than any other man or woman. She's played for England Lionesses over 170 times, scoring countless goals, and for a long time she was also the England captain. That in itself is a brilliant story. But the thing that Stan told me that blew the top of my head off was the fact that for the first, it was either 5 or 6 years of her England career, Farrah Williams was homeless. She was homeless. She spent her life living in hostels for homeless people, or sleeping on her friends' settees, because she had nowhere to call her own. And it amazed me, that, because I don't know about you, but when I think about professional footballers, I think about them earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a week and living in really flash houses and driving really fancy sports cars. But Farrah Williams' existence was nothing like that. And for me, that makes her incredible and tenacious and brave. And like Pickles, in a way, an underdog. Whoever thought that a homeless person could go on not just to play for England, but to captain their country and also become the record cap holder? What a phenomenal human being. And it made me think about what Farrah had been through, and it made me think about what a lot of families are going through in the UK at the moment. It's harder than ever for people to earn enough money to live comfortably, or to even live at all in a good way. And so many people, as a result, end up homeless. And I started reading up on issues around homelessness. And one thing that I found out absolutely floored me, which was that there are many people in many areas around the country who aren't living in proper accommodation at all. There are lots of people that don't have anywhere to call home, and so they have to move into buildings like this, the one that you can see on the right there. And that's not a block of flats, that's an office block. That building was built for people to run their businesses out of. Yet due to a huge shortage of houses, people were forced to move into renovated office blocks that didn't have proper kitchens. If you were lucky, you'd have like a portable camping stove or a hot plate to warm up a can of beans on, or a microwave. They didn't even have their own toilet or shower. You'd be sharing one bathroom with all the other families that lived on that same floor. And it shocked me, and it saddened me, and it made me feel angry, and it made me feel a number of different emotions. And those are the things that I love to write about, as well as the things that I feel happy and passionate about. I write to write things about things that challenge me, or things that I find disgusting or that make me angry. And I wanted to try and write about homelessness in a way that was appropriate for younger children. I guess it might be a subject that gets tackled often in fiction for teenagers or for young adults, but I wanted to try and write it for 7, 8, 9-year-olds. And so I decided I wanted to try and write it for Barrington Stoke, who are just the most fantastic publisher. They're based up in Edinburgh, and for the past 2 or 3 decades, they have been the leading publisher of books for dyslexic readers, and also for readers that are reluctant. And I class myself as that very much. When I was growing up, I found reading a real struggle, and I really wish that Barrington Stoke had been known to me, so I could have read some of their books. And so I decided that I was going to take those 2 ideas and try and mash them together. Those ideas of Pickles the Dog saving or finding the stolen World Cup, but also try and weave in a story about a family who've been left homeless. And that's where the idea came from. Bringing those 2 ideas together helped me to write The Dog That Saved the World Cup. So I thought what I would do, if you don't mind, is I would just read you the first chapter. I really hope you enjoy it. So this is chapter 1. See if you can work out, as the chapter goes on, who's narrating the story for you. Football's the best thing ever. Fact. I mean, sleeping's great too, but when I dream, it's always about scoring goals. And I like eating. I'll scoff every scrap of food in my bowl, but only so I have loads of energy to chase a football all day. Everything comes back to football in the end, you know what I mean? Pretty good at it as well, you know. I should be, given how much time I spend in the park, dribbling, passing, practicing my silky skills. I don't want to sound like a big head, but when people see me playing football, they stop and watch. Some of them even get their phones out and film me. They laugh and point and clap, which just makes me show off all my best tricks. There is nothing better than playing football in front of a crowd. And the bigger the crowd, the better. Some days in the park, we end up with so many people watching that it feels like we should be charging them. We'd make a fortune, Elsie always says. Imagine how happy Dad would be if we went home with a hat full of cash. Elsie's right too. We haven't had much money lately, and it's caused Dad and Elsie a lot of worry. Elsie's been my best friend ever since she was born. She's the person I always play football with. She's skillful, she's fast, she's got a properly powerful shot. She's not as good as me, but that's okay. After all, there's a really good reason why I'm better at football. In fact, there's 2 reasons. You see, I've got 4 legs, and Elsie only has 2. Anyway, football has always been our thing. It's what Elsie and I do, the thing that makes us best mates. And then recently, it became more than that. Football took us on an adventure, a big one. And this adventure changed Elsie's world and mine. So that's chapter 1 of The Dog That Saved the World Cup, illustrated by Elisa Paganelli. Her illustrations, by the way, are so fantastic all the way through. She is seriously brilliant. So it's out now, published by Barrington Stoke, available at all your Tales on Moon Lane bookshops or other good independents out there. I really hope you find the book. I really hope you enjoy it. And thanks ever so much for listening. See you soon. Bye-bye.